We're down to the final eight in the NFL with the divisional round on tap. Hey, everyone. Welcome to NFL This Week. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Paul Chapman. And Paul, we've got 4 games this week as the NFL continues to work its way towards the Super Bowl. Only one game last week was really competitive. The rest of the games were essentially blowouts, and hopefully that won't be the case as much this week. So we'll go in order as the games come. And of course, it all gets started on Saturday at 4:30 Eastern with the Texans visiting the Chiefs. And I think all season long we've been talking about, Kansas City kind of getting by the skin of their teeth occasionally from time to time, maybe getting some help from the officiating. Is this finally the week that some people think the house of cards maybe comes to a crashing halt here?
No, Rob. I think it's potentially the most intriguing game of the weekend just because Mahomes hasn't played for 3 weeks. You had the bye. He sat out. Will there be rust there? There's still questions outside of Travis Kelce about the receiving core for the Chiefs. But ultimately, I think that championship pedigree holds up. And let's face it, the Chargers lost that game rather than the Texans winning it. Now, where I think there is intrigue is Kansas City's pass protection has really struggled. Now, Patrick Mahomes helps with that, with his escapability. But in particular, the left tackle position has been a problem. And to give Houston credit, last week their defense was spectacular, in particular their pass rush. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, D'Amico Autry, you're talking about like a historic game where they forced a very good quarterback, Justin Herbert, into some mistakes, and that turned the game. Now, I think the Chargers are a little spooked, not used to it. They don't have that championship pedigree and the calmness of the nerves the way that the Chiefs do. But it could cause some problems potentially, but I think, they're the Chiefs. We hate them. They win. That's the way life goes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anyone's expecting much different from this week, but who knows? It's any given Sunday, but in this case, any given Saturday. So who knows what could happen? Last week, what a rookie playoff debut for Jaden Daniels. I know it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who maybe aren't the most formidable opponent, but still getting a big road win in your first playoff start is impressive. It's a different beast, though, this week, heading to Detroit to take on the Lions, who do have Super Bowl aspirations. The Lions almost 10-point favorites in this one. What are you expecting out of this game?
I'm expecting a Lions steamroll, and that's a shame because I think the Commanders have been a great story this season, and Jaden Daniels is going, well, if he's not already, he is already a star in this league, but he's just going to continue to build his resume. But he's still a rookie. He's playing, I think, probably the toughest thing for the Commanders, as good a job as Dan Quinn has done, is those two coordinators for Detroit, who will probably both end up with head coaching jobs when this is all said and done. Man, do they ever bring it. So if you look on offense, we've seen the trick plays. We've seen the inventiveness of the Lions. But they've had injuries, and they just continue to succeed. And they get David Montgomery back this week to bring that two-pronged running attack. And then on defense, again, you look at the injuries. They're starting rookies. It doesn't seem to matter. They get turnovers. That crowd, of course, is absolutely, people in Southern Ontario know that crowd is rabid. I would love to think this Commanders story continues, but in a way they are playing with house money. Going and getting a clutch win on the road just builds that legacy for next year. And their defense, truthfully, is not very good. So I just think they're too one-sided. Maybe if they get a few turnovers, but it would have to be something disastrous happen to Detroit to level that out. I frankly, I think 10 points might be a bit low.
So you mentioned the layoff for Patrick Mahomes, and we saw Jalen Hurts make his return to the field last week. Didn't have to do too much because Jordan Love was essentially giving the Eagles the ball every opportunity he could. Kudos to the Eagles defense, of course. But you look at this matchup here against the LA Rams, and a nice victory for them, of course, to get to this point. Sam Darnold playing his role in that, of course, too, allowing the Rams to advance. But what do you think could happen here between the Rams and the Eagles?
Well, I think conventional wisdom, again, says the home team. And if you look at the Eagles, especially with that offensive line and Saquon Barkley, and that defense is pretty good, pretty fast. But I don't know. There's something nagging about this. I will harken back to my own idiocy. You asked me in week 5 which team was in more trouble, the Ravens or the Rams, as they were both. I think the Rams were 1-4 at that point, and they were ravaged by injuries. And they've really, I mean, I know people talk about the Bengals winning 5 games at the end of the season. They didn't get in the playoffs. The Rams were just as hot. Aside from a meaningless game where they didn't play their starters against the Seahawks, they roared into the playoffs. I think coaching comes down to this. McVay is brilliant. I'm still not sold on Sirianni. I think this game could be an upset. I mean, Matthew Stafford looked amazing last week. That defense, which again, when you look at teams that go out and waste money on big free agents, or they talk about the not hitting in the draft, look at how many rookies the Rams are playing on defense, or second-year players, guys they got in the 4th and 5th round that are making a massive difference. They just overwhelmed that Vikings team last year. And again, Kevin O'Connell, very good coach, comes from that McVay tree, and their offense had no answers for that Rams defense. So if I was to pick out an upset this weekend, I think this might be the game.
Lastly, the game I think a lot of people expect to be the game of the week, and that, of course, has the Baltimore Ravens heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills. As it stands right now, the Ravens are actually the 1-point favorite in this one. It's going to be a battle between the two players most people expect to be duking it out for the MVP award as well. I know Bills fans, they're always nervous anytime we get to this time of the year, but is this maybe the season where the Bills can make a big push here? Because this would seem to be the biggest hurdle, at least for the time being.
Well, I think the question in everyone's mind is what happened earlier in the season where the Ravens just steamrolled the Bills. And really, that was the game that got the Ravens season kickstarted because they had a difficult start to the season. But it is curious. You raise the specter of the MVP award. So we have these two quarterbacks that everyone's talked about being like these are the guys, Lamar Jackson with 40-plus touchdown passes. Both the Ravens and the Bills ran it pretty much even split with how much they threw it last week. And we saw even that first drive, 13 runs in a row from the Ravens. That could be the key to this game. Obviously, you look at the spectacular nature of the way that Lamar Jackson can scramble, but we all know what Josh Allen can do too. So I almost think that the ground game is what's going to decide this. The Ravens defense has rebounded a bit, but they looked dreadful earlier in the season, and scheme can only cover up so much. I think the Bills, look, my Bengals allegiances are coming through. I do not want the Ravens to win, so I'm going with my heart in this one. I'm going to say the Bills pull it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people definitely rooting for the Bills in this one. But as you said, with the running game, could be an old school smash mouth type of game that people like to watch. Could be a lot of running, but maybe we're not talking enough about the Derrick Henrys and the James Cooks of the world, because both of those guys were spectacular last week as well. But should be a heck of a week here for the divisional round. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For Paul Chapman, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.